Meeting to order. This is a special village board meeting workshop, Monday, June 9th. We all stand. We'd say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
What I'm going to start out with before we have public comment is a few comments from just the trustees and myself. I want everybody to understand this is a public meeting. Please no vulgarity and let's keep it above the belt. The fact is that nothing has been decided on this property besides the fact that the building we have decided who is going to be the architectural firm for the building. That's called an RFQ process. There has not been an RFQ on the actual park property to this point. So nothing has been decided. There's a lot of rumors about a lot of things going on, but that's the purpose of having this meeting tonight. So with that, I'll open it up to the trustees, and I'll start down with the head of the Park and Recreation Committee, Marcia DeVivo. Go ahead, Marcia.
Thank you, Mayor.
You may have to share a microphone there.
Yeah. I have a question. Are we going to be able to speak then after also, or?
If you have a few closing remarks, sure. We have a lot of people here tonight, though.
Okay. Well, I mean, basically, I'll say the same thing I've been saying for the last, I think we've met and talked about Woodbine for at least a half a dozen times now. I think the most important thing for us on our agenda is that we are going to take that building and we're going to remodel it into a village hall. That's the number one priority. I think should be for this board anyway. And then after that, we will start focusing on the park. And we would really like to have the input from the residents. What would you like to see on the park? What kind of amenities do you think that this community will use? The park committee went to a park called Ty Warner Park in Westmont about a week ago. And I mean, if you have any opportunities to go and visit parks, you really should do that if you're really interested in trying to give us feedback. It's amazing all the things they were able to fit in a 35-acre park, and we have 100 acres. So it's going to be interesting. I think there's plenty of room there to buffer everything that we need to buffer, and still put that ponds in there to help the drainage issues. I think it's going to be a very, very interesting project. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Marcia. I'll go to the other end. Trustee Yukich. Excuse me, Trustee Yukich. Trustee Costa.
Thank you, Mayor. Really, the purpose tonight is to listen to you and hear what you have to say. So just a couple of brief comments from me. Just to remind everybody, since we have the microphone, June 26th through the 29th is our big fest coming up. So I have to plug the fest. That's a big event in our community, so I hope everybody will come out there. As far as the park, as we were said, nothing has been planned yet. There are a lot of rumors floating around out there. I've had a couple calls. I'm sure everybody on this board has. So I'm hoping tonight, if we do hear some concerns of the residents and we know an answer, that we're able to address it just briefly. And just let you know that nothing's been planned. Everything from putting in extra driveways and buying lots up in this community. It's unbelievable what's going on out there. So if you have a concern, please bring it to the board tonight and see if we can help you put some of those concerns to rest. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Costa. Trustee Suisse.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank everybody for their time for coming out tonight, and I'm here to listen to your comments and your input. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Suisse. Trustee Yukich.
I agree with Trustee Suisse. I'm very happy to see everyone out here. It's nice to see everyone's getting involved in this. We are here to listen to what your interests are. What do you want at the park? What don't you want at the park? Any question you have, we will try to get answered for you. Not so much tonight, because some of them we don't have answers for. But if you have a question that does come up that we do have an answer for, I'll be more than happy to answer it for you. But thanks again for coming out, and we'll see what happens tonight.
Thank you, Trustee Yukich. Trustee K. Janis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Welcome everyone on this beautiful evening. Weather's been just fine holding out for us. Tonight's brought to you by Homer Glen, and something we have discussed many months ago to have in a public forum. And it's so nice to see everyone out here to offer their input. As we embark on this project, your input is very, very valuable. This is something that has not been decided, but yet the purchase of the park has been satisfied. So as we go forward as a community, how we grow in the future, your input is very much appreciated and valued to all of us 24, 25,000 in Homer Glen. So I look forward to the comments that you're bringing forward, and I will be writing down those comments as well for future reference. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee K. Janis. Trustee Sabo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's good to see everyone here, and it's important for people to give their ideas, their opinions, and listen to everybody's ideas. Hear from you as part of the decision makers. The village has this new property, and it's a new adventure for Homer Glen. There's a lot of responsibility. And how do we move forward on this to begin this wonderful adventure on behalf of the residents of this community? So that's one of the reasons why we need to hear from you. And there's a lot to consider before, and much work to be done before the property is available for uses. So an evaluation is one of the things. What's possible to be put where and what? So a lot of studying goes in, so it's properly done. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Sabo. One thing that I did overlook is roll call. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Costa?
Present.
Trustee DeVivo?
Present.
Trustee Kajanis?
Present.
Trustee Sabo?
Present.
Trustee Sweet? Present. Trustee Yukich?
Present.
Mayor Davis?
Present. Okay, we covered all the trustees, and I'll just wrap it up before we open up to public comment. The way this process works, and I started out explaining it and passed it on to trustees for brief remarks, you just start out with what they call an RFQ process, request for qualifications. The architectural firm has been selected for the build-out of the banquet facility for the first permanent village hall of Homer Glen. That process will move from there to the manager is bringing forward a contract to the village board, and then the company will be signed that contract. At that point, they have a whole time frame of they get public input, they have meetings with staff, they have meetings with trustees. They're basically looking for what do you need in this municipal building. So that's where that goes, and then you'll move from there to bid letting of the property for the development or for the build out of the banquet facility. So we've started that process. The property itself, the Woodbine property, for whatever you've heard, there has not been anybody hired for anything at this point. There has not even been an advertisement for RFQs for the property. The property is 100 acres, as you well know. That's a massive piece of property. I think it lends itself to a lot of uses. I think we can have a very nice park with both active and passive recreation that will bring a lot of fun to this community. That will happen as time goes on. We will be going out for RFQs at some point here. And so you know, with the RFQ on the building, 22 firms came forward and submitted requests. We had a committee that brought it down to 5, that brought it down to 3. The 3 that were we felt most talented was brought before the board. The board selected the architectural firm. That's where that's at. So that whole process has to go on then with the property. So with that being said, nothing has been decided. Homer Glen is not out there buying lots in any subdivisions. There has been no decisions on anything. So any of these rumors that are flying about, like Trustee Abelu's Costa said, they're just simply not true. So it's a lot of panic, and that's the purpose of this meeting, is to clear the air on a lot of stuff. So with that being said, let's just move to public comment and see what's going on here. I've got multiple sets of eyeballs here. Bob Shivitz, I believe it is. Did I butcher it? The microphone's up here, Bob. If you could give us your name and address for the record.
do not live near there.
Is that microphone? Okay, good.
My feelings are that a 9-hole golf course should be kept, bordering the property of the people that bought homes on a golf course. My second concern was the rumors, because it irked me to read and hear that the Homer Stallions and that felt they had a slam dunk new fields, done deal. I don't think it should be that. I think that property should be, besides a golf course, turned into something like Lake Catherine in Paris, or make a nice lake that you can maybe stock with paths around it, a place where families can go to take pictures after 50th anniversaries or whatever. Something for the majority of the people of the community. Fields, ballparks is a very small percentage of people in this town. And so I basically want to say I feel that it should be for the majority of the people.
Thank you. Okay. Ted Nitschke?
Yeah, hi, I'm Ted Nitschke. I reside on 4110 Handicap Drive, and I just want to read you guys some of my thoughts. The reason for me being here today is to find out where the revenue is coming from to pay for this, for everything that the Homer Glen government wants to do with this Woodbine golf course. I want to remind the board not to do what the Democrats have done to the state, and that to spend money we don't have. I'm here to remind the board that you are Republicans, not rhinos. And I want you to keep in mind that just before you guys might be doing good financially, it doesn't mean everyone else in the community is. What I am leading up to is I don't want to see another tax increase because of this adventure. My next concern is who will be taking care of the future complex. It almost looks like the startup of a park district in Homer Glen, another government entity that most likely will be funded with local tax dollars. I would really like to know where all this funding is going to come from. So that's one of my big issues. Another issue is I would like to discuss is lighting. Usually with a big sports complex comes lighted fields. At this time, I'm against adding more lights in the area. Number one, they are an added expense that never goes away. Number two, we already have lighted fields in the area, which I'm okay with at the sports complex. And remember, it's light pollution an issue, and isn't light pollution an issue in Homer Glen. Last but not least, the last concern I have would be entry into the complex. I think you guys kind of cleared that up a little bit. 151st Street should be the only entry into the complex. The subdivisions in the surrounding complexes don't need any more traffic cutting through them. That's all I have to say. Thank you. Thanks. I thank the board.
Thank you, Ted. Robert, I believe it's Warg, W-A-R-G.
I've been called a lot of things. It's where.
Where?
Yeah, it's okay.
Sorry about that.
Just like a warehouse. So you can put down Mr. Warehouse now. 14728 Innisbrook by the 14th tee box. Anyway, I had a nice chat with Trustee Costa, and he did clear up something that was on my mind, and that caused me to be here. And that is, I now know that we are somewhere, but we're not there, which is great. We're at the beginning stage, but we're still in the talking phase. And that's one thing I wanted to clear up. We're not trying to move ahead quickly. We're trying to be rational, and that's super. I did see, the first time I've really seen that golf course like this from an aerial view. I saw my backyard, etc. For the population of this community, for our input, it might be worthwhile if there was a map, and it could just be in black and white with shading, that we could play with, and everybody could get copies if they came to town hall. They could come to this meeting, no matter where it is, and get copies, and they could also download it. You could make a file. That way we could play with it at home, we could think, we could scribble, doodle, etc. And if we didn't like what we did, we could crumple it up and start over. But that way we'd have something to provide and say, this is my idea, or these are my ideas, or I was talking to my neighbor and we came up with these specifics. because one has a quite a lot of interplay. As you do one thing, it's another. It's like those balls on the string, action, reaction. So as you dig a big hole, you have lots of dirt. What do you do with it? Well, dirt is money, it has value. If you pave stuff, you have water. Where does it go? Do you fill a lake, or do you drown the people downstream? And it's always a real problem. If you build ball fields, where do you park the cars? And right now, for those 4 fields, there is not adequate parking for those 4 fields. I went and counted them, and what I read off the internet from Prince George's, that they have a tremendous park system, everybody says you should have about 25 to 30 spaces per field. And that does not allow for overlaps between games that ran a little longer and one that was supposed to start on time. So anyway, I really appreciate you letting us know where we are. I would love to think that in the paper, you take a position of informing the press as succinctly and in depth as possible, so there is a long, detailed article that we can read. And that would probably reduce some of the people in this audience, because now we would know more. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker would be Randy Juris. Randy, name and address for the record.
Randy Juris, 14351 Oak Trail. What I would like to see is that this process does not go forward very quickly. I could even see this build out of the park happening in phases. One of the things that I would hope not happens is that just one specific area or one group decides that that wants to be what they want to use it for. I happen to agree that part of the problem is parking. If you have something that uses an awful lot of people, you're going to use up valuable land just to put parking spaces in place. The other thing is, a lot of people that I know of and talk to that live around there are very concerned about, especially the lighting that would be in place if these were sports fields. You can see the lighting from the sports fields that we currently have all the way to Bell Road. Anybody that lives anywhere near there, I'm sure when they bought that property, they did not think they were going to be subject to that form of lighting. The other thing is, if you do wind up with an awful lot of parking spaces there, you're going to have a lot of water that's not going to be absorbed on the course itself. It's got to go someplace. I don't think Woodbine is going to like the idea of the water going into their retention ponds. And the other thing is, if you only have one way in or out of there, you have a lot of people coming in, I could see that as being a major problem. I also would tend to think that the process should be publicized a little bit better, so that regardless of what committees are going to wind up doing this, at least a number of people get a chance to go to these committee meetings and voice their opinion. The little signs that I saw around the village were hard to read. Maybe it's because I have trifocals, but I would have had to stop to actually read them. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a quick comment on Randy's statement. Anybody is always invited to our committee meetings. They're public. You can attend them. So you know that. You know. Okay, the next speaker would be John Coy.
John Coy, 12056 Venetian Way, Homer, Glen. The cost of maintaining Woodbine, does anybody have an idea?
Yes.
Is it thousands or lots of thousands?
To cut the grass for the entire grass cutting season, it is the best quote I could find from a list of people that we use on properties is $28,995 for the whole season, April 15th through November 15th, which is maintaining the land to keep clean and debris free, mowing all the land on the 1st, 10th, and 20th of each month, edging out all trees, hedges, and bushes, keeping a clean edge on all walkways, walking path, and parking lots, edging of all fencing areas, backing up to residents, keeping parking lot weed-free, picking up all garbage and debris in mowing areas. Areas will be cut on specifications of Homer Glen and needs of a park. Area will be cut with a 72-inch wide and 48-inch wide cutter.
All right, thank you. Another thing. The rumors which have been talked earlier by a couple fellas about Woodbine possibly putting an entrance to the park over there, and then in Saddlebrook subdivision, there's talk about a vacant lot there at the north end of Woodbine being a parking lot with an entrance to that property too, which I found out this morning from the mayor that he said nobody on the village board or involved with the village trustees is out looking to buy that property for a parking lot, right, Mayor?
Correct. I know nothing about it. I mean, I heard it from you as a rumor, and I was sort of shocked actually. And the rumor got a little bit even more ridiculous that I was supposedly behind it because I'm in the construction business. I mean, that couldn't be further from the truth.
And like you say, rumors just keep getting bigger. And like the man said in front of me, if this was in the paper and people knew what was going on as it's going on, not all of a sudden everything jumps up in your face and said, well, this is what we're going to do. Everything's a secret. It's got to be publicized. This property, which eventually, and I hope it's not going to be done right away, is going to have roads, sewer, curb, gutter, lights, the whole ball of wax. I hope that doesn't start right away because it probably wouldn't get done properly. All right. Drainage, that was talked about. All right, now, which you also said this morning, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. I asked you how this was being paid, and you said it was out of the bond money that we got from 2013, right?
No, that's incorrect. I said there's many funds that this will be used from. We've saved money over time. Capital Improvement Fund, Park Fund, Bond Fund. This, as the property was bought, it was bought through 3 different funds. So no, it's not just a bond fund.
But there is money going to come out of that, right?
I believe we take advice from our financial director as to what funds to get the financing from, so that you don't deplete a fund down to 0 without the ability to refund the line item account, I should say. Go ahead.
All right. Other than that, there isn't too much I want to ask after that because it's way in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Okay. BROQUE BACKAK or L? 301-7139. I didn't want to take a stab at that one.
Brock Backel, 15026 Eagle Ridge Drive. I was surprised when the purchase of Woodbine took place on December 31st. Was anybody in this room surprised when our mayor purchased this property? Was anybody notified? No.
I was surprised.
Yeah. And we were all surprised. I have a question for Brad Ludwig. Is he here? Brad, what do you think it would cost to maintain just cut the grass, fertilize, and weed kill for a season? Can you do it for $28,000? It's a lot higher? Okay.
There's the quote right there.
I think that there's a lot of things that that's happening that a lot of people aren't understanding, and I think that there's 80% of the population of Homer Glen that really isn't interested in sports, and the 20% that are, that's fine. I've got 2 boys that play sports myself, so I understand that. But the money it's going to cost to develop and alter Woodbine Golf Course, I think that it would be a random guess to even come close to what it's going to be with drainage and parking, to manipulate the land. I think that no one really can understand the tax burden that we're all going to be faced with once this whole process gets started, and that's the gist of it. Thank you.
Thank you. For the record, so everybody understands, I don't have the authority to go out and buy golf courses. It was a unanimous vote by this board to buy this golf course. So this just for the record. Next speaker would be Bob Bennett.
Good evening. Bob Bennett, 15046 Eagle Ridge Drive. I won't bother belaying the points of, that were brought up about whether it's disruption to the residents or some of the costs or some of the issues, just to drag this on. I back up to the green in the fourth hole. You can see my backyard in the picture there. I want to touch upon something that I'm unfortunately very intimately familiar with, and that's drainage. Everyone in Homer Glen is aware of the millions of drainage problems we have in this village. Anybody who lives in Woodbine East or the surrounding subdivisions know that there is poor drainage in the area. I know more than I ever wanted to know about Illinois Drainage Code. I worked very closely with many of you on the board for 4+ years to correct the problem of Woodbine. And as I've said before in public comments, I'm very grateful for the assistance from many members of the board, as well as the Lovewood family. So I'm very concerned about some of the things that are being brought up. I realize a lot of it's rumors about changes and usages of this property. One thing that I do know in regards to Illinois Drainage Code is you just can't walk in with bulldozers and start changing topography of a property. So that will definitely be concerned with the plans going forward, how quickly that's done, and the input in terms of how much you can actually do, because that property in itself does not drain well. If you have any questions, you can always stop and ask the Ludwigs about the issues they've had in building that piece of property over the years. So I will ask this board to please keep the surrounding residents in mind, not only with the disruption with the lights and active and passive recreation, but as well as the drainage. As a matter of fact, if at all possible, since Woodbine subdivision on the east, we do not have a detention pond. When the developer put that subdivision in, did not put a detention pond in. So be it, what's done is done. We share a detention pond with Pebble Creek. So there's 200+ homes in Woodbine East, along with the 200+ homes in Pebble Creek. We share one pond at Culver Park and Parker Road. Way too little of an area to handle the drainage in that property. If it also one day I could go through the detail about the inadequate drainage in terms of the pipes and some of the goofy things that were done by the developer in that piece of property. Marshes, we've been through this time and time again. There's some really strange things going on behind some lots along the border of that piece of property. So I would please request that if possible, I know one of the gentlemen mentioned possibly having a pond, a stock fishing pond. That can also serve as a detention pond for this piece of property. That would be a tremendous idea to help the drainage issues that we experience in the Woodbine subdivision. Also, just to throw in one last thing in terms of disruption to the surrounding residents, if at all possible, to keep the, not the active recreation as in terms of the sports clubs, but the active recreation that may be in some of the discussions going forward about for other uses, volleyball courts, etc. Please also keep those things away from the residents of Borderline. That would be much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dennis from 14750 Innisbrook. Yep.
Dennis Granick, 14750 Innisbrook. I happen to be right off the third hole, so I know about the water drainage. Although I've been lucky over the years, I've never had water really damage my property at all. So I'm kind of glad about that, but that's one of my major concerns, is that when it rains real heavy, that water from the third hole pond, it goes to the northwest, and there's just a lot of flooding in the golf course. And I'm just wondering how you're going to address keeping all that water from going over into the subdivision. So that was my one point. The other is, if it's taking multiple years, were you going to have the maintenance done starting at the end of the off season or this year and through next summer while they're working on it, or is that only going to be when it's totally decided what's going to happen? That was another question. And a suggestion, I know that to bring in some revenue for maintaining the park, did you think about keeping the nice hall and banquet hall in there and keep it as a place where people can go to, you know, have meals or have parties, or are you going to be doing away with that?
The intention is that will be the village hall.
Okay, that was my only concern.
Thank you. Thank you. I keep hearing one thing that's on pretty much everybody's mind that lives in Woodbine, drainage. I'd just like to say a couple words on that right up front. This is an excellent opportunity to take care of that problem. This is a massive piece of property that any type of engineering that goes on in that property, drainage will be definitely addressed. And you'll see every step of the way as this thing moves forward. The engineers can't get approvals and what have you without balancing dirt correctly and have proper detention. So that will definitely be addressed, no doubt about it. Okay, the next speaker would be Brian Crockey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Board. My name is Brian Crockey, 14830 Eagle Ridge Drive, Homer Glen in the Woodbine subdivision. And to Mr. Bennett's point, nobody knows flooding more than me. My home is the lowest lying home in the subdivision, and my lot has flooded no less than a dozen times since we moved in 8 years ago. Fully flooded up to the front and back door. So I feel your pain. Believe me, I do. I would like to first thank you for calling this meeting. It's important that all groups and residents get the opportunity to give their input. I'm here to represent the Friends of Homer Youth Sports, an alignment of the 3 sports organizations within Homer Glen: the Homer Athletic Club, the Homer Soccer Club, and the Homer Stallions. Between these 3 organizations, we represent over 1,500 families, 2,800 youth within this area. Much greater than the 20% number that was thrown out previously by a fellow resident in Woodbine. I am also the president of the Homer Stallions Youth Football, Cheer, and Lacrosse program. We have served the Homer area for over 30 years and have seen nearly 8,000 families and 12,500 youth go through our program. I am also a resident of Woodbine Subdivision. The service that our organizations offer to the Homer area are essential and paramount to the continued growth and positive reputation of Homer Glen. Youth sports provide so many life lessons to our children, represent friendship, sense of community, teamwork, loyalty, and maybe most of all, memories with families for a lifetime. We work hard to develop character and give families the opportunities that would normally be provided by communities with taxpayer-funded park districts. Here in Homer Glen, we pay some of the highest taxes in the area. Nobody can argue that. Yet we have some of the fewest amenities available. Let me outline just a few. Arguably the highest water bills in any community of our size in the country. No park district, no community pool, no village high school for our children. Yet we stress our accomplishments here in Homer Glen. Open space, Earth Day celebrations, communities with dim lighting, peace and tranquility. Each of you needs to ask yourself on this board, what is it that provides residents what they need in a community? What provides them wanting to come here to move to Homer Glen, and what keeps them here in Homer Glen for generations? Yes, some of us are drawn to some of the things I've outlined. However, I would also agree that the old movie line, the needs of the many are greater than the needs of the few, is a far better approach. Communities such as Hinsdale, Northbrook, Naperville, Wheaton, Frankfort, Mokina, and Lamont are just a few that are able to balance both conservation and parks for communities to keep residents moving forward. Now is the time to provide a much needed resource to this community. What we are asking for in the short term is practice facilities that are safe and clean for all of our youth in the community, contiguous to the backside of the Homer Sports Complex and the East Football Field. These areas, these two fairways, would not interfere or impact in any way any of the residents that are presently living in these areas. For the long-term approach, we're asking for an all-encompassing sports complex, along with passive areas for all of the residents, walking trails, ponds, and community centers that everybody here in Homer Glen can enjoy and afford. Trustees, there are 29 public golf courses within 10-mile radius of Homer Glen. 29. Losing one will not hurt this community. Rather, the gain of a much-needed family and community area for all to enjoy far outweighs any concerns to maintain Woodbine as a functioning golf course. Thank you.
Thank you, Ren. The next speaker will be Paul, 301-4140.
Good evening, I'm Paul Hildebransky, 14847 Maryland Lane, Statler Ridge subdivision. I'm only up here to mention a few things, and I agree with Mr. Crocky that the sports programs need help. They're overflowing with kids and families. They have adjusted to work with what they have, and now they need some help. I'm in the real estate business. I'm a real estate appraiser. I get to go into every area, and we have a wonderful opportunity here to mold this piece of property into something that will work for everybody. The technical aspects, I'm not really interested in. There's such a watchdog group here to look at these plans, review these plans, approve these plans. It's such a system in place that I think most people will be very well satisfied. I've had kids go through the Homer Stallions program, and I can't tell you what a benefit that has been to me and my family, and many other families here that have lived in Homer Glen for many years. So I would like to see the sports program get some help. I was well aware of these meetings. I don't know why some people weren't, but I was happy to come here and speak tonight. I took a poll with my 14 and 13-year-olds and their friends to find out what they might like to have in a park. And aside from additional practice fields, and they asked me to specifically to mention to the board they would really like to see a skate park. So I don't know if you could put that on the agenda or maybe consider that, but as development improves in the future, and it is improving and values are starting to edge up, Homer Glen is a family-based community. People that move here have families. They want to raise their families here, as I did. And I think this park will be a great asset to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. The next speaker would be Joanne, 312-203-7355.
Hi, I'm Joanne Sworn. I live at 14411 Twin Creek, right off 143rd Street. I love this guy. Great talking about our youth. I'm here to talk about, and I'm very, very happy we're here. First of all, people say that they were surprised that you bought Woodbine. 2007 and 2008, I was very involved with the building and when we were designing Stonebridge. And we were talking about this. So if people weren't aware that this was going on, that Woodbine was an area that we were thinking about, as well as 159th Street, then you really haven't been watching what's been going on within our community. I have two children. My oldest son is now 15. When we moved here, he was only 1. Every year, I have to go out and purchase a membership someplace else for my children to swim. Tomorrow, I will be going to Lamont to buy a very expensive pool pass for our family because we have nothing within Homer Glen. I'm sick and tired of giving all of my money to Lamont, Orland Park, and Burr Ridge, and Naperville to get my family in to swim for a day. It's normally about $15 per person to go to these nice facilities. So to spend $40 just to enter into that park for a day is a waste of my money. I don't mind having my tax bill go up another $100 for a half year or a full year to have these additional facilities available. So here I'm to talk about what I'd like to see in our park, because polled my kids, we were excited, we saw the signs, and they've been talking about this ever since. Like, yay, Homer Glen's gonna have a park. All right, so what we like at Lamont, we love the way that they redid their park district. They've got the deep saltwater pool. My kids love having that 10-foot deep pool. They just love having the salt water slides, diving board. Lacrosse field. Lacrosse is becoming a huge sport. We don't have enough fields. My son plays for the Lamont Indians because we're not involved with, we didn't know the Homer Glen had lacrosse yet. So I'm kind of excited to hear about that as well. He's an excellent lacrosse player. He's 13 years old. He'll probably go to college for lacrosse. It's becoming very popular. Right now we share fields in Lamont at the Bamberg Field. Those fields are packed. I don't know if you've been to the Bamberg Field off of Smith Road. They have 3 or 4 different parking areas. You can't even find a parking spot, and they have tons of parking there. The fields are packed. They do soccer there, lacrosse, baseball. So we need this. People are going elsewhere. They're coming. We can bring people in from other communities into Homer Glen if we just build it. My son is 15 years old. He's special needs. There are many special needs families throughout Homer Glen and Lockport area. Playgrounds that actually cater to special needs kids, it would be a great asset to our community. I would encourage you to speak to the schools and ask them what kind of facilities that we would like to see for our children. And these are just basically like big oversized swings, things that spin, things that are safe for these children that have special needs. And special needs for the elderly. We have a lot of elderly people who they also like to go to the park. If they're going to go to a swimming pool, they need something that's zero entrance in, so you can walk in easily without having to worry about steps. My son would love to see a putt-putt facility. If we're not going to keep we don't need the 9-hole golf course. Like I said, they have plenty of golf in the area. A putt-putt facility, someplace we can take our kids to in the evenings. Summer camp area. I love the idea of the skate park. The skate park in Lamont gets a lot of use. I see kids over there all the time. It's a nice, safe place. Places to skate, a nice trail around, places to bike. Shelters. Places that we can have family picnics. Families can rent the space, get a permit, have their own little shelter so they can have family picnics. Opportunities for fundraising. We're always looking for ways to get the community involved. The brick raising, you can buy a brick and actually build an area where we can talk and donate a brick for somebody's birthday, have money to raising that way. Buy a tree. I would love to buy a tree and have it donated to my family. I think that would be a great thing to add to that as well. Or I've also seen picnic benches downtown Chicago. Lamont recently put in the Core Fitness, another indoor facility, places for families to go to in the winter months. My kids love the Orland. Again, we're spending money going to Orland, $45 to get the family in for the day. They've got water slides and a lot of fun activities, water park. What else did I want to talk about? Mayor, all due respect, I think your quote for your landscaping was very, very low. I would encourage you to get another quote, a little more realistic. I'm here with a landscaper, and he kind of did those numbers, and I would rather see quality done to the park and spend a little extra money. All right.
That was just quote. That was the lowest quote I got.
A low quote's not necessarily going to take care of the ground, so I would encourage you to get some nice landscaping companies. I know. I think I covered it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, the next speaker would be Marianne Bozen. Okay, thank you, Marianne. The next speaker then would be Mike Torres. Okay. The next speaker would be Lisa Castaneda, Castaneda. Castaneda.
Okay. My name is Lisa Castaneda, 14952 Cothill Lane. I've lived in Homer Glen since 1986, back when Homer was still pig farms and cornfields. We moved to this area from Chicago because of the beautiful trees, peacefulness of the town, the fresh air. I loved Homer Glen. The only time I haven't lived in Homer Glen was when we were living in St. Louis, and there was a beautiful park there that I would encourage you to go visit. I know it's in Missouri, but it's Creve Coeur, Crevecoeur. It's on 320 acres of land, which is larger than we currently have at Woodbine. But I think it's something that would be great for any renovation. And I ask that you take a trip to see what it has to offer. And hopefully it would inspire some of your plans for this park. It's a small park that sits across the street from a golf course. We would frequent there. There's bike riding, there's jogging paths, and there's a man-made pond. And I don't know the history of that pond, but it's quite large. And I'm not sure if it's because of flooding, but I do know that it is man-made. It's in the center. You could kayak, you just can't swim in it. Beautiful park. I highly recommend that you at least look it up online to see it. And it has a lot of the same attributes that Homer Glen has with the trees and the dim lights. I'm not against the land being used for teams to train, but I do think that there is a lot more than meets the eye. It isn't as simple as letting people set up camp to train. We do need to maintain the areas with grass cutting, garbage removal. Where will everyone park? I can hear when the games are going on late at night. There's a light shining into my guest bedroom that is as bright as a flash of a camera, except that light does not go away. So I have to get very thick blinds in order to have a guest sleep in that room because it is pretty bright. I fear that we will make promises today that we won't put up new lights and it won't do this and we won't do that, but 10, 15 years from now, those promises will be forgotten. And new parents come in demanding lights and they will go up. I really enjoy Homer Glen for its peacefulness and the ability to view the stars at night. Please don't take that away. I do agree with, I remember you from being from Arizona, and he urged you to plan and plan again and not to rush with any development of this park. To take your time and to think these decisions through so that it's done right the first time. And please heed the advice of your residents and to take into account most of us appreciate the beauty of nature. And when a tree falls, we plant another. So thank you.
Thank you. Veronica, 13036 West Creekside.
Hi, I'm Veronica from 13036 West Creekside, and I just wanted to take a moment, and I think it's great. I always try to look for the silver lining and the positive of something that comes out of this. I am formerly a preschool teacher, and I worked at the Palos Park Farm and Nature Preschool over in Palos, which is something a long time. I grew up in Palos Park, so I'm very familiar with the one with nature concept, and felt very lucky to grow up in an area where we had a very good park district in such a small town. I feel wonderful and I feel very lucky to be amongst parents who are super supportive of their children. I, for one, my children are my life and everything I do for them. I think the building is a tremendous amenity, and I hear a lot about lights, drainage. I hear about we need more sports facilities. I've heard nothing about anything that we could do with the building for children, young adults, mothers, parents, senior citizens who would like to see the building being turned into a recreation department that does more than just sports. I haven't heard anything about mom and tot classes, which if there are any parents here who raise children, we moved from Palos Park with our children aged 10 years ago, and I had to take my children to Orland for mom and tot classes. My children took the joy of cooking. They had to take that in Burr Ridge. I don't see any emphasis. I drive by and I see the sports fields filled all the time, and I think that's wonderful. But I just would like to see, besides seeing the building demolished or seeing more passive recreation, we put in bike trails. There are many different areas of Homer that are already beautified in that way. I'd like to see something a little bit more for the child who is not the sports-minded child. A place where they could go for theater classes. I also wanted to touch on that maybe some of you might recognize me, that I used to be the after-school Spanish teacher who worked for Language in Action for Nancy Thompson, who was also a Homer Glen resident. I had the pleasure of teaching in Tinley Park. I had at their recreation department. I had the pleasure of teaching in Palos Park at their recreation department. I had the pleasure of teaching in Orland at the Civic Center. And all of these places would have families come in and out that would be going to chess club and gymnastics and small reading groups and everything. And I just would like an opportunity to, what we're going to talk about is not just park and recreations, but recreation goes beyond lacrosse. It goes beyond baseball. It goes beyond football. There are many things. And we also live in a community where, let's face it, it's cold a lot of the time. We can't be at the ball field all the time. It would be nice to have some place to send our children in the winter time where they could do indoor activities. And that's what I'd like to say.
Okay, thank you. Next speaker would be Robert, 14940 West 147th.
Hello, I'm Robert Arn. A lot of good points have been brought up here about the drainage and everything. I think you did great buying it for this price. I think this could be a great center. A lot of negatives here, the drainage and stuff, and I think we'll address that. On the outside of the park, you can make nice trails. You go to these new parks, they got exercise machines along the trails. It's all healthy, all good stuff. The ball fields, keep them inside. We have, there's concerns for the neighbors and the lights. We have 100 acres. There's room for that. But then again, we got to address the older people and whatnot. Why not an outdoor theater? You show movies at night or have bands at night. Nobody's mentioned that. That certainly would be easy to do. Everybody could benefit that. Like the lady said with swimming, and like my son, there's nowhere to play basketball. What's wrong with that? Wouldn't cost much to build 2 basketball courts with a screen around it, and then in the winter you freeze it and you make an ice rink. You get a lot of use out of a very little amount of money. There's nowhere to play basketball. You have to join a club. To go swimming, you have to join Elite Fitness or something or whatever to go swimming. We should have that. We've got to make this positive. Like you said, I'm basically Republican. I figure you're going to spend my money anyway, you're going to steal it, whatever. But this is my thought. I figure we might as well get something for our money. We're going to spend it anyway. Let's get something for our money. Let's get a skate park up there. Let's get a swimming pool.
That was good. That was good. Hey, going back to reminding everybody, this is just the very beginning stages to let you know where we're at. There has not even been an architectural firm that has submitted anything to us. The whole process will come down to a very large public process that'll take place that you'll be involved in it every step of the way, and we'll invite you and we'll contact you and everything else. Todd from 14665 Saddlebrook.
Good evening. I'm a 30-year Homer Glen resident. I live on 14665 Saddlebrook. And actually heard the rumor, live right next to this rumored lot that was supposedly going to be turned into a northern parking lot entrance to the park. And I really just wanted to voice my concern about representing both myself and some of my neighbors that we really don't want that. We bought those properties there because they were on a quiet street on the north side of the golf course. And so we definitely much like for that to remain a lot and hopefully one day a house. In addition, a road that borders the west side of my property, Coachman, there's been rumors that could possibly go through. Right now it's a dead end. Rumors that it might go through into the park. And again, we bought that property because it was quiet and on next to a forest, and we'd like that to remain that way. Another concern that I did have, obviously I've got young children and they're starting 2 and 1, so they're not involved in sports, but obviously I would like them to be. And I'm not against more ball fields, but I know the ones currently there, granted we are at the very, very north end of where the baseball fields are right now, but the noise pollution as well as the light pollution is very apparent. Comes right across that golf course. The lights, when they're on until 10 o'clock, it feels like We've got spotlights in our backyard, and granted, we understand that sometimes that has to happen, and we're not opposed to those being there. We just don't want more noise pollution and light pollution like that. So some of the ideas I've heard are really good, but I feel that if we do things like more outdoor entertainment, let's say like an outdoor movie theater, something like that, that noise pollution would affect all the residents. So those are my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary from 14601 Saddlebrook Lane.
She left.
Okay. All right. Chris from 14050 Saddlebrook.
Chris Maka, 14050 West Ankeny Drive. I came today to also address some of the similar things that Ted here addressed about entry points, but maybe a lot of people blew that up to be more in the plans than it really was, and obviously you kind of addressed that. I think that was kind of an important point because we do live there. We don't want traffic to be going that way, and I'm pretty convinced that there are no plans as of yet to do anything like that. But I do like some of the comments that people made regarding different uses for the park, and I think you guys will, probably at least feed on what the majority of people might want and try to address that, because like someone else said, that the needs of the many are greater than the needs of the few. Because a few people have certain pointed ideas on what to do with this property, and it's obvious that we should address things that are necessary for a community to thrive and try to bring in and keep values, and also that the park, that the maintenance of any of these facilities or any kind of uses that we determine to use the property for, that they're not going to be a big burden on a lot of other people that might not see the need in it. So just to keep costs down and stuff like that, and that's one of the biggest things that I like to see being done, that everything's assessed and that we're not getting in over our heads, and it's going to be a burden that we're not, or most residents aren't willing to pay for. So, but I like I said, a lot of the things that were said, and I think they addressed some of the concerns that I had earlier. So I just like to leave it at that.
Thank you. Okay, and then the final speaker would be Jerry Young. Well, I guess you're not the final speaker.
My name is Jerry Young. My address is 13039 West Pinoak Drive. I'm in the Old Oak subdivision over by Purple Onion Restaurant. I've been a resident here for about 11 years. I've seen a lot of growth in our markets. One of the things that brought me here was good schools. Actually, I did like the water until I got my bill, but because I had Lake Michigan water. But anyway, this is a great opportunity, and I appreciate you guys taking the time tonight to let us voice our opinion on what we wanted. I know this is going to be a crawl, walk, and run phase, okay? Right now you're just kind of initiating some ideas, what you want. I agree. Our sports facilities, we need more. I mean, we practice on fields that really shouldn't be practiced on. I worry about injuries to sports players. I mean,
you can adjust that microphone. I see you leaning over.
I'll just talk. I like to talk like this anyway, right?
Do a little song and dance.
I'm a good speaker. Anyway, so from that standpoint, yeah, if there's any way we can use some of those holes for practice facilities, maybe in the fall for football and lacrosse and all that, I would highly encourage you guys to consider that, okay? I'll make you a great, hey, I would love to have walking trails. I would love to have a community pool. Somewhere where I don't have to go to Orland Park. Not that I don't like Orland Park. Love to just drive here for 5 minutes, drop my kids off, then go swim, have fun on slides. Hey, I like the idea, everyone's talking about theaters and everything like that. I would love to have like a concert night, Friday night. Everyone bring out their blankets, we have a little nice, some jazz band concert going on. We're having a good time, something like that, theater. Yeah, hey, let's do that, all right? Ice rink. My son, big hockey, a lot of my neighborhood hockey. We love to have an ice rink. Hey, maybe you get a pond. We do fishing in the summer and we do a little hockey in the winter. That'd be great, right? Yeah, perfect. All right, splash pad, yeah. Splash pad,
You know, I think the splash pad is nice. I've seen them. My kids enjoy them. Let's see, basketball courts. Love to have some outside basketball courts. I know one of my neighbors said, how about some tennis courts? I'm not saying this is all going to get done in a year or two, but I just want you to consider it. But also one thing is, I do think that it's important that we bring in Woodbine. You know, maybe you guys establish a committee with them, maybe with Homer Athletics. Maybe you guys come together and kind of talk about what you guys want, all right? And kind of air some of the things that you guys have disagreements about. And that way when you go through this process, because we're kind of in the crawl phase, we can talk about it, we can air out our laundry and everything like that. It'll help with the rumors. I mean, I've never heard any of those rumors, but I mean, if I heard them, maybe I was a little scared that somebody's buying a lot right next to my house. I don't know. But at least you address that tonight. So because they're going to be impacted, it's in their area, maybe come up with a committee to kind of address that, because they're right there. Noise pollution, all that stuff, retainage. Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of area, and they're going to have to make a couple of ponds, I would assume, for water and all that anyway. I think that's all I got to say. I think it's a great opportunity. I appreciate you guys doing this tonight. It gives us an opportunity to say something, what we want. And, hopefully 2, 3, 4 years from now, people will say, hey, Homer Glen's got a great sports complex, and, something for seniors also, something for mom and tots. That's a great idea. We should have a park district eventually. I mean, that's going to come, but, we got to slowly walk through this, talk about it, decide how we're going to fund it. But I just want to voice my opinion and say thanks for doing this tonight. So thanks.
Thank you. Next speaker would be Mike Dudlow.
I'll take the easy way out. Mr. Mayor, members of the board, thank you for this opportunity. My wife and I, we moved into the area less than a year ago. And so far we've come to love Homer Glen as our new home. And I see a lot of people in the room tonight, and obviously we have a lot of valid concerns. One of my main concerns is I live on Saddlebrook, 14625 Saddlebrook Lane, and I know the rumor that was going around this morning and the last week or so about the potential of a parking lot being built or being utilized at the end of my street. If that's a rumor, great. I just want to caution the board and the city officials that if you build it, they will come. And what I mean by that is, I'm a police officer, I'm familiar with what goes on in parks, as I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with what goes on in parks too, late at night, whatever their circumstances are. If you build it, they will come, and I mean crime. Crime usually has a tendency of coming into the area when you do build a park. You have parking lots, you have vehicles, some people don't even keep their vehicles locked, That being said, it needs to be patrolled, and I know Will County Police, Sheriff's Police, they do a very good job patrolling my area as well as some of the other areas in town. This is something that's going to have to be a concern and brought to their attention, that when they have a big park like this, they are going to have to address those kind of issues as well. I'm sure that's some of the crime rates are going to go up as a result. In my community, we have a lot of video surveillance systems throughout the parks. That helps in the aid of crime. Obviously, something like that is an added expense, and an expense probably to the taxpayers, because somebody's going to have to man these cameras, somebody's going to have to install these cameras. It's a larger expense, something that needs to be looked at. So my concern, as well as some of these other individuals in the room, should be public safety, and I think that also should be looked at, how this is all going to be made safe for everybody that's going to be involved. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last speaker then would be Chris Nitschke. Oh, one more.
My name is Christina Nitschke, and I live at 15734 Wilcook Road. I grew up in Saddlebrook at 14110 Ankay Drive. My parents moved me out here when I was about 10 years old. They actually convinced me to leave everything I knew, all my friends back where I grew from, based on the sports programs out here. They told me that Homer had the best sports programs, and they did, and they still do. And do I think that the sports need help with field usage? Absolutely. As a Homer Township trustee, you guys are constantly coming to us expressing that you need, more field space. More field space, and And I do believe that you guys need it, and I'm all behind you. But I do have a couple of concerns regarding this. The taxes. The taxes are a huge concern. When my parents moved me out here, they were paying, sorry Dad, but $3,800 in taxes, and now their taxes are $10,000. If we continue to keep doing all these, improvements, which improvements are great because it does bring up the house values, and I just think there's got to be some way to increase our home values, but yet keep the taxes low at the same time. The other concern I have is lighting. I grew up next to a golf course. I remember having golf balls hit my window as a kid. Now they put that fence up, and now you guys rumor is that you guys plan on taking it down and putting a parking lot next to that one gentleman's home that had spoke earlier. And the traffic, I just really don't want traffic and the lighting. Like I said, I personally think that they do need sports fields. They need something to accommodate every taxpayer in Homer Glen. I just don't want lights shining into my parents' home. And back to the taxes portion, like I said, my parents pay a lot of money in taxes right now, and I just don't want it to keep going up. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and the last speaker once again is Dave Dilger.
Hi everybody, I'm Dave Dilger. I live at 12107 Graceland Court. My wife and I have been out here for quite some time, about 30 years. My kids have all gone through sports organization. I'm a member with Brian, with the Friends of the Youth Sports for the Homer Youth. I don't know if any of you people know what exactly the sports groups do and what it costs us to maintain the township's fields. Does anybody have any idea how much the sports groups pay? Anybody? Brian probably does, right? It's about $40,000 for soccer alone to maintain our park that we play at Morris Park. $40,000. And I know that baseball, with all of the sports groups that they have and all the fields that they use, it's a ton. Now, everybody's talking about the taxes and what it's going to be and how much more it's going to cost. Well, what I'll do, Mayor, from the soccer standpoint, we'll give you $5,000 to cut the field next year at Woodbine, okay? That came from my sports group that the soccer club will donate $5,000 to maintain the field for you. So what I want people to understand is the sports group aren't just here to help the community, it also helps maintain what we have done for the township too. Okay? All the fields are maintained by us. We pay taxes and then we pay our fees for our sports groups, and then we end up paying to maintain the fields again. So thank you, and thanks to all you trustees. If anybody ever has any questions, call them because they have an open door policy. They've always been fine to get back to us. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes public comment. I'm going to let the trustees speak for a few minutes, and we'll conclude this for tonight. I'll start it out. I heard a number of good ideas. As I go back to saying from the beginning, nothing has been done yet. Nothing is inked. A firm hasn't even been asked to submit the request for qualification. So this is going to be a process that you'll be very involved in. You'll be notified. As far as a park district, as a mayor, I would not support that. A parks department is the way to go. A park district is just another layer of government and another levy on your tax bill. The village itself can hire an individual to run a parks department. Okay, so that's my feeling on that. Map of Woodbine, I thought that was a good idea. Whoever brought that up, we can get that circulated. Of course, the park, due to the size of the property, will be built out in phases. There's no doubt about that. It's just 100 acres. I'm a developer. I know exactly how big that property is. It's humongous. The detention was a big voiced concern here. That can definitely be addressed in this build out when we get around to it. Special needs and elderly, they'll absolutely be brought into the picture for when we get an architectural major park planner selected. The whole process will begin as to, with the public, what you want and what are the needs of the community, and those are absolutely needs that a community should have. And safety, of course, we're going to have to take a look at that as far as hours of business and who's going to patrol it and what have you, if we need an additional police officer. As far as talking about taxes and what have you, I want to remind everybody that your taxes come from Will County, and they're based upon the levies of the school system, the park, or the fire department, the things of that nature. You do not have municipal property tax with Homer Glen. We're one of the only communities in the state of Illinois that does not have that levy. So when you look at these excessive tax bills and stuff like that, they come from the levies that are created by your library, your fire department, as they go on and say it. So I just wanted to clarify that, and with that being said, we'll start down with, we'll go the opposite way. Trustee Costa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just one more comment, what Mayor Daley just said about taxes. Everybody keep in mind the village of Homer Glen does not get $1 of your property taxes, not $1. So anything that we do here in the village comes off of other revenue sources and other revenue streams. With that being said, you know what, we did hear some great ideas tonight, great comments, excellent, real concerns. Anybody that lives around the golf course that has been dealing with the issues and the problems with flooding, certainly we understand that, and I think in the planning stage we can certainly do something to help that out. I think the most important thing we have to remember here is what you told us tonight here. We're not going to start putting things on paper. This board is not going to plan this park. This is going to be a series of meetings through, and I hope I'm not jumping the gun here, Mr. Mayor, it'll probably go through our Parks and Recreation Committee.
Right.
They will have open meetings, and I think what's going to be important, as a couple of the residents mentioned, is that we have representatives from different groups that are engaged in this community. We need residents that live around the park, on the north end and the east end, even on the west end and northwest side. Also, someone from the sports organizations. I think as we all get to understand and learn the difficulties and concerns of each other, I think then we'll all know what the real needs of the whole community is. I think sometimes we look at our needs for our special interest, if you want to call it that. And that's important. If you're the president of a sports organization, I think one big job, number one, is to make sure it's a good, safe organization, quality organization. But also, it's a fight for every single thing you can get for those kids. People that live in different areas, if you're an environmental organization, you're going to fight for everything you can to save the environment. So everybody really that came here tonight, it did their job. They spoke their piece. They want to make sure that we do things right. But it's really going to be through your engagement in committee to get this park planned. And the last thing I'd just like to say, please, to everybody, please be patient with us. We're not going to drag this thing out, but we also want to make sure that we're going to plan it once and build it once. It may be in phases, but we want to do it one time and do the best job we can for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Costa. Trustee DeVivo?
Thank you, Mayor.
You may have to pull that mic.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Great input. I heard a lot of interesting ideas. Some of them we've tossed around at the Parks and Recreation Committee, skate park, ice skating rinks, things like that. And we've been talking about these for actually quite honestly for a couple of years now. So this will be interesting as we plan this process and move forward with it. One of the things I would really like to encourage the village is to have an interactive website. We could get a lot of the input from residents. As we move forward, we can share the information with you on the website. You can come back, tell us what you think. Do you want tennis courts? Do you want, what do you think about, would you use these types of facilities? So I thought that was a lot of good information. Plus someplace where you could leave some contact information, where you might have maybe an email address if you'd like to be contacted when we have meetings, so we could let you know when it is. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Trustee DeVivo. Trustee Yukich?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. there were a lot of great suggestions here tonight. And all we have to do is make sure that you give us a time to address what your concerns are. And like Trustee Costa and Trustee DeVivo have already said, we do need to bring everyone in much earlier than we did tonight. This should have happened before we were actually buying the property. But with that being said, everyone's got to remember, before we can do anything to the park, it has to be engineered. We have to make sure where the water's going. And everyone has to understand too, we've been out at Woodbine a bunch of times, and we've talked to the owners. There is a lot of work that has to be done out there. You know, everyone talks about it's already got a sprinkler system, it's got this, it's got that. You got to remember that that course was built up, not down. So as soon as they start leveling this thing out, you lost everything that you had there. So we want to try to keep this to where we do it right, we don't overdo it. So again, you just got to be patient, because it has to be engineered to get this stuff going. Joanne, if you're still in the audience, you talked about special needs. Just so you know, the Homer Community Festival this year is going to have a special needs day on Thursday from 2 o'clock. So bring your son out. What we have to do though, we need to get all the plans together, find out what's going to cost to do this. Because we don't have the money right now. So we don't want to jump ahead of anything and spend what we don't have. I mean, I'm right there with you. My taxes are stupid. They doubled since I've been here. I don't want them going up anymore. We all want the same thing, and that's to have the amenities in the whole village for everybody. So there's a lot of work to be done. Give us a time. We want your input. If you could come to every meeting, I'd love to see this amount of people at our meetings, because it's good to get fresh ideas. So again, thank you, and be patient with us.
Thank you, Trustee Yugich. Trustee Swees?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank everybody again for all their great ideas. I took a lot of notes, and I will, thank you. Took a lot of notes, and will keep everything in mind. I agree with Trustee DeVivo about having a interactive type of website. A resident brought up a map where you can maybe print it out or work with it, give us some ideas, and I think that would be great. And like everyone said, it's going to take a little bit of time, and hopefully you'll be patient. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Swees. Trustee Sabo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've always advocated for a special needs area for children. There was a group of parents that did come to a meeting. It was overwhelming, the number of children that have these needs, and also to address them at this park. It's very important. And it's important also to have an evaluation, impact study, and assessment. Need to know the full scope so it can be evaluated. And I mentioned before, what goes where and why. How is this place going to be managed? We have to consider insurance, we have to consider liability, implementing policies, and making plans that encompass as many residents as possible. As much as we would like to see our dreams realized, we cannot move forward quickly without implementing these policies and making overall plans. People have asked me, what's the rush? Do it right and do it well. As far as another revenue source for money, we have the program Shop in Homer Glen, and that shopping means there's taxes involved, so that when you shop here, it helps Homer Glen and helps with the expenses that go toward making this a park. We know we have different ideas. There'll be different uses. There'll be different ways to occupy this park, so that we do have to have a plan in place so that when it comes time to have people use this facility, we know all the rules, and that we have rules that are fair and safe for everyone. That includes the people that are playing there, and it also protects the government. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Sabo. Trustee K. Janis?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
looking out here and seeing everyone and speaking up and talking to them beforehand, thank you for the input. I appreciate it. Looking forward to future dialogue with the residents of Homer Glen. As I look upon this and look upon future conversations, I see a golf course that we purchased. I see grass, I see trees, I see a walking path, I see a definition, it's a park. At the end of the day, without spending a dime, it's a park already. I think we need to be very pragmatic as we prepare for the future development for the park. We need to consult experts. I'm not an expert in park development. If anyone that has come forward yet, I'm not sure of, but we need to pursue this in the future. I see the parks as a benefit for our community. I see it as a benefit for property values around Woodbine and for the whole community. So with a golf course, we have trees, we have grass, we have paths. We have hooked golf balls that I hook, slice as well. At night, we have grass, we have trees, we have walking paths. It's a park, it's there. So how we utilize this park, this open space for all the community is to me the key. As far as the expenditures, I'm not for expending any more money than what's necessary. I'm very frugal, and I hope this future project is very frugal as we move forward as a board. I look forward to future conversations on this nature, and as Trustee Sabo said, shop Homer Glen, dine Homer Glen. Keep your tax dollars here in Homer Glen. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Trustee K. Janis. Before I ask for a motion to adjourn, I just want to let you know that the architectural firm that was selected for the banquet facility to be transformed into the Village Hall is Williams Architectural Firm. This is what comes in with an RFQ. There were 22 firms that submitted things like this. So I'm going to leave this up here. If anybody wants to, thumb through it to see what type of firm we hired, it'll be right up here after the meeting. With that being said, is there a motion to adjourn? First by Trustee Costa. Second by Trustee Swees. All in favor? All opposed? Meeting adjourned.